What's up, Marvelites, and welcome to a brand new episode of the MCUExchange podcast. This is episode 46. Woo! My name is Aaron. I'll be your host for this episode. Alongside me is Charles.
What's up?
And Joe.
Hello.
Hey, big news. Big MCU week for this week because there's a lot of news to break down. On top of that is, of course, a mind-blowing episode of WandaVision that we're going to break down as well later in this episode. And that's before we do that, I just want to give a shout out to our listeners over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcast, Breaker, and Apple Podcast. Thank you for listening and thank you for tuning in. Let's now move on to the MCU news. Let's now move on to the good stuff. First up is Thor: Love and Thunder is finally filming at last. Yay!
Yeah.
Because there are various set photos here, so I'm gonna break it down piece by piece. The Daily Mail has posted new photos taken from the set of Thor: Love and Thunder. The images show Chris Hemsworth as Thor in apparently a new costume, and Chris Pratt as Peter Quill Star-Lord also in a new costume, and also other Guardians of the Galaxy members are present in this while filming. It's Sean Gunn's Kraglin and Karen Gillian's Nebula.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And also, on top of that, there are two goats. and I'm not aware of the Marvel history of those, so I'm gonna bank on you guys. So, Charles, initial thoughts when you first saw those mind-blowing set photos this week?
the thing that stood out to me is that I mentioned this in the MCUExchange article. Like everyone seems to be wearing, at least for the Guardians, they're wearing their spacesuits. Meanwhile, Thor is wearing a tank top and jeans, or he's wearing a leather vest, and he seems like it's like casual Friday for him. It's like everyone's wearing office clothes, but he's like wearing just fucking 80s jeans, and I think it's hilarious that he's just kind of like just chilling there. I think his new costume, the thing with the Thunderstrike thing, where he has the vest and he has the classic Jack Kirby boots where it's blue and yellow. I think that's pretty fucking sick. I like his hair. I like that. He still has that greasy hair from Endgame, but also like that he lost all that weight because it's nice to see fucking Thor be ripped again. It's nice to see Hemsworth be hot, but I'm just excited to see everything come together. And I didn't notice like Chris Pratt having the new costume for Star-Lord, maybe because I really don't pay attention much to what Star-Lord's outfit looks like throughout the MCU, but if he's wearing a new costume, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe, what are your thoughts about this? And do you think that this particular scene, based on your observation, happens at the beginning of the film or at the last part, at the final battle or something?
Ooh, that's a dangerous question. I do think that it could be early on. The thing is that what we don't really see much outside of them talking in costume and teases of some very massive goats who we believe to be Tooth, Gnasher, and the other one who's also named Tooth, who I can't remember right now. And the thing is that I kind of think that at one point Thor is going to split ways with the Guardians and do his own thing. So I kind of think that this is around that time that maybe he found the goats and is then just going to kind of go off into space and do his own shit. So I'll say this could be in the early third in the film, at least. So I don't say we're talking about mid or ending. I am really interested, though, is that, like, I love the costume. I love that it's just Thunderstrike. So I wonder if he has an alias or something, calls himself Eric Masterson or something, like the character in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
There's some cool stuff here, and it just feels like they're really going all in with the Flash Gordon references and just that kind of metal Viking era is what I'm really hoping to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also know that James Gunn and Taika Waititi exchanged scripts for Thor: Love and Thunder
Oh yeah.
and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So there's that. So there's in between consultation, and it's going to be great on how these two films intersect or connect with each other.
Definitely.
Great news for Thor: Love and Thunder. And now we move on to another MCU property. Big news here for the Black Panther franchise because it's been officially announced by Disney, that Black Panther director and co-writer Ryan Coogler would develop a Disney Plus series revolving around a drama based in the Kingdom of Wakanda. because of that, it was revealed before that. It was revealed that Disney has extended its relationship with Coogler through a 5-year overall exclusive television deal with Proximity Media, and this means that he teased in his official statement. Coogler teased that there are already he's the crew are already in the mix on some projects that they can't wait to share. Do note projects with an S. So there's a lot of Disney Plus stuff here that Coogler is involved. As for the Wakanda series, this is big stuff. This is the next big thing. Disney Plus is the next big thing for uh, for Marvel Studios right now, and Wakanda having its own show is impactful for the Black Panther franchise. Joe, what are your thoughts about this news regarding Wakanda, and also what this is a drama based on the kingdom of Wakanda? Which character or tribe do you think that this show will focus on?
I'm excited. I think Wakanda is a fascinating place to explore, and I think there is a limit to what you can do in the films because the focus is mainly on Black Panther, or the successor that we still don't know officially. So I think it's an exciting thing. A lot of people say they want to focus on the Dora Milaje. I think that's an interesting concept to kind of show the everyday life of them within this very impressive scientific city. I would kind of love, so the character I really want to see get more focus is M'Baku. I think Winston Duke was a standout in the first Black Panther, and I think it would be really fun to explore his race integrating back into Wakanda because they live off from everyone. So you would have a fun character that is also kind of our eyes and ears into Wakandan society that still brings something interesting with him. There's so much potential that they can go with this, and I think they're very open about this. Could even be an anthology show. One episode is about the Dora Milaje, one episode is about M'Baku and his tribe, and each episode focuses on a different tribe. It's a mystery that comes together. So anything's possible, and I think it's great to see Ryan Coogler return and kind of highlights how much trust they have in him.
Yeah. Charles, how about you? Which characters or tribes do you want to see the Kingdom of Wakanda explore in this Disney Plus series?
I want to see because I've seen a lot of people mention this, that Ryan Coogler could do like a flashback show where he explores all the previous Black Panthers throughout the ages. I think that's a pretty sick idea where we could see everyone there. Like obviously I want to see like T'Challa's dad. We never really see him in action apart from that sort of prologue in the Black Panther movie, and I definitely want to see what all their costumes look like throughout the ages. So I think like a Black Panther series about all the other Black Panthers is a good way to, I guess, keep the Black Panther spirit alive in the wake of Chadwick's death.
Yeah, touching on the legacy of the Black
Yeah.
Panther title, it's going to be interesting to explore. And there's also a chance that this series will also could explore the 5-year gap between Infinity War and Endgame because T'Challa is not there. It's what happened in Wakanda during that gap. That's that's ripe
Yeah.
for storytelling. And now let's move on to another Disney Plus series. And it's a confirmation. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but the actor confirmed it. So there's been a talk. You see that back and forth on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, it's a spoiler." No, he said it, so it's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
He actually said it during an interview on Bro Bible's post-credit podcast. War Machine actor Don Cheadle revealed that he will appear in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And this is his exact quote when he said that. And I quote, "It's really a fun and interesting and by all imagination, completely open-ended. This can go anywhere. It's great. I can't wait to get in the room with the writers and figure out how all those things happen." Rhodey shows up in Winter Soldier and Falcon show, so it can be a lot. Joe, let's go. Charles, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think that this is expected, or is this a surprising reveal?
It's not surprising given the themes of the show. It's very political. It's very militaristic. It makes sense for someone like Rhodey to show up because, even in Infinity War, he was still talking to General Ross. General Ross even orders Rhodey to court martial Cap
Mhm.
and Falcon. So he is, I guess, in many ways still, I guess, working for the government. So it kind of makes sense for him to show up. I am curious if he's still working for for the government currently when we see him in what they call this in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But it's interesting. As far as it being a spoiler, I mentioned it before we recorded. I don't think he was supposed to say that. It
Mhm.
kind of seems like that would be one of the nice surprises they could save for the show. So I guess it's kind of a, like an official spoiler if that makes sense. But it's a nice welcome addition for sure because Rhodey's always nice to see. I like to see him. I like to see him show up, and obviously he mentioned in the interview what that the Armor Wars was gonna explore some of the Iron Man stuff post Tony Stark's death. So I definitely want to see what Rhodey's been up to since his best friend died.
Yeah, and seeing it from his perspective of
Yeah.
grief and loss, it's going to be very emotional Disney Plus
I'm
series.
sensing a theme in Phase 4.
Yeah, grief. Joe,
Yeah.
how about you? What are your thoughts about this? And another question is, how many episodes do you think Rhodey will appear? Just one or two or I don't know, three?
Ooh, I think it's going to be like maybe like a one time or maybe maximum 2 episodes because it does sound like Falcon the Winter Soldier is a bit of a globe-trotting adventure. So they might just drop by and get some information from Rhodey or something that he might have that he might know that could help them further. My theory is actually that maybe we see in a trailer that they're in this huge plane where Falcon jumps out of. I could
Mhm.
imagine they got that through Rhodey's connections because of his time in the Air Force and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of where I put the connection in and say he's probably helping them out once. I do wonder if Falcon the Winter Soldier does set up anything that'll be relevant for Armor Wars moving forward. That seems quite possible, and I'm glad that War Machine is a great character, and I think one of the most underutilized in the franchise. So him getting the limelight with that series and appearing in more projects and kind of stepping out of Iron Man and Tony Stark's shadows. I really can't wait to see what they do with the character. And it just Don Cheadle was such a great choice to take over since Iron Man 2. So I'm really excited. And he probably adds a nice little humor as well once the film comes out,
Yeah.
the series.
Yeah, boom, you looking for this? That's my exact caption when that news was released. It's gonna be exciting. There's a term for that in the TV language, backdoor pilot.
Yeah.
That's what
Back to
Yeah.
pilot.
gonna happen here,
Mm.
setting up Rhodey's adventure in Armor Wars because he also said that it's currently in the writing stage and they'll begin filming in the next couple of months, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
interesting. Let's now move on to the last MCU news, fresh from yesterday.
Woo!
Blade already found its writer because the Hollywood Reporter shared that Marvel Studios is hiring Stacey Osei Kufur as the head writer for the upcoming Blade solo movie within the MCU. Osei Kufur also served as the writer for HBO's Watchmen. Wow, exciting news.
Yeah.
Charles,
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts?
Look, as a huge fan of Watchmen, I think this is such a very very good get. Like oh my god, what a what a what a great talent to score to write Blade. Apart
Yeah.
from that, we don't really know exactly what's happening with Blade. Who knows when we'll hear about the director or maybe even like a casting because there's no script yet, but at least they're working on one now. So I'm hoping at least that we maybe by the end of the year we find out who's directing at least. But it's great casting. I'm excited to see what rather great hiring. Sorry, I want to see. I'm excited to see what they do with her. How she's gonna write how she's gonna incorporate vampires into the MCU for the very first time. It's gonna be really really interesting and yeah, I'm excited to see what they have in store for Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, before I go to Joe, I just want to point out that with this hiring, Osei Kufur becomes the first black female writer for a Marvel Studios movie.
Yeah.
Amazing representation. Go, yay. Joe, your thoughts about this hiring?
Uh, on the first thing is Marvel Studios really, kept their promise when they said they're moving forward with trying to embrace more diversity with their projects. And I think she's a fantastic get. Watchmen was the highly acclaimed. Its acclaim was well worth it, and it does, talk about a lot of race issues, race topics that might be also a key aspect of this new incarnation of Blade. because I have a feeling like what we saw with Black Panther, it was also not just about the stories of these famous Marvel characters. It's also about what they represent within the communities they come from, and I think that could be, especially with an incredible talent like Mahershala Ali, they can do so much. And I'm really curious how they're going to move forward with this project. There was a really confusing aspect that they kept changing the name in the article. So it was like Blade, Vampire Hunter, Vampire Hunt. I was waiting for someone to call him Vampire Hunter D for those anime fans out there. So it's exciting. And I think this is a huge step forward. And I think Blade is still one of those projects that it can really surprise us. We know very little about it. I think most of us are still wondering, like, are they going to go PG-13? Are they going to go R rating if they're doing it with Deadpool? Anything's possible, and that's kind of the exciting aspect of this film kind of breaking in general. Moving forward with Phase 4 and what's beyond, is that it feels like Marvel is breaking what we're used to in new and creative ways.
Totally agree. And before I move on, just wanna personally say that there's a good chance that Blade will show up before his debut film, right, in other projects. And I personally think that he will show up maybe in Multiverse of Madness or maybe Moon Knight. How about you guys, Charles? Where do you think that Blade will show up before his feature film? And if yes, where do you think he will show up?
I mean, if yes, it's Moon Knight seems like a good choice, because I remember when the Ethan Hawke casting stuff came out about Moon Knight, I saw someone say, I think it was Charles Murphy who like suggested, oh, he would make a good Dracula, like a vampire. I'm like, holy shit, yeah, he would make a good vampire. And obviously, if Ethan Hawke is Dracula, then clearly we have something of a like an overarching villain for this, for I guess the street side of the MCU. Then yeah, I think Mahershala Ali could absolutely show up in Moon Knight if ever. But will he show up? I don't know. Well, the good thing is, like I said, Moon Knight seems like a very very viable platform for him to show up. So there's always that opportunity. But I don't know how necessary he is until we find out exactly what's happening in Moon Knight.
Yeah, Joe, how about you?
I think it's possible. It's not like Ali hasn't appeared in TV shows, in Netflix shows. I mean, he was in frickin' Luke Cage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it is possible, but the question is really, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to make this like its own thing? Like Blade is a very unique aspect of the MCU. There is like also the theory with, I agree with Charles. Moon Knight is kind of the best place to do so, because it seems Moon Knight is going down a more supernatural route, with rumors of Werewolf, I think by Night, making an appearance as well. So it's an interesting way to set it up, and I'm really curious what their in general direction is with Blade, which I think that's kind of the thing that opens up the question, like, will they use him, won't they use him? It all depends on what exactly they want to do with Blade overarchingly, because where would he then fit in these bigger storylines, or how will Phase 4 and such continue it? And I think that's like the big question moving forward.
Yeah, and as we all know, Marvel Cinematic Universe, everything is connected. Anyone can show up on anything, so it's gonna be interesting to find out. Because now we now move on to a crazy, very very crazy episode of WandaVision, episode 5. We're at the midpoint, guys. We're halfway there. Yay!
Woo!
Episode 5 WandaVision, entitled on a very special episode, because God, this is the longest episode of the season. It clocks in at 41 minutes. Well, 35, not counting the credits. So it has a lot. Our theory is correct. Remember last week, guys, we talked about if speculated if WandaVision will combine the sitcom element and the real world ramifications. It happened this week. So there's that. So initial thoughts first, because there's a lot to break down, and then let's go from there. Charles, you first.
I thought this was like a very very revealing episode. I think as we're gonna go on, we're gonna learn about more stuff about what's happening in Westview and whatnot. But I think for the most part, this dropped a fuck ton of bombs. The biggest surprise for me was just seeing Wanda go out of that hex and like just fucking threaten to murder everyone outside for staying on her lawn. Like that whole moment is her telling people to get off her lawn, and it
Yeah.
was fucking scary. And it was also surreal to see like, oh shit, she can go in and out without the hex getting messed up. Like holy shit, how is that happening? It makes me wonder if that's even Wanda because she goes out, she has an accent. So I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, what if she's being mind controlled? What if that's like a decoy? What if the real Wanda's like trying to keep the whole thing together? But that was my biggest surprise for me because it kind of shows where this series is headed. Because Wanda, it's kind of clear that Wanda's gonna be the big bad. She knows what's up. She doesn't give a fuck if it's fake. It's hers. You're not allowed to touch it. You're not even allowed to look at it. So get out of the fucking lawn. So it's kind of scary to see where it's all going to go. Even more than the Evan Peters stuff. Obviously, we've heard about the Evan Peters stuff for quite some time. It, obviously, it's not as surprising as much, but it's still pretty cool to see him show up. Although him showing up does bring up some pretty interesting implications. But yeah, I think overall this episode moves the needle forward in such a massive way that it's painting a clearer picture for us on where things are headed in the last 4 episodes.
And congrats, by the way, for Murphy's Multiverse on that
Yeah,
Evan Peters ghost finally being confirmed.
yeah,
Kudos.
pretty cool.
Pretty
Thank
cool.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just want to ask, guys, I didn't expect that Wanda went out of the hex. I didn't really. I was surprised. I was literally shocked when I saw it. I was having goosebumps because, man, she's powerful. Joe, your turn.
Oh, there's so much to unpack in this episode. I agree. Like her walking out, pretty much threatening. I do love. I know it's probably a lot of people are looking too much into it, but it's still a fun little reference. Is that the way she threatens the sword director Hayward is kind of similar to what Magneto does in, I think it's in Phoenix, Dark Phoenix. But it's just a fun little visual nod, and they're
Yeah.
playing a lot. Like there's so much info we're getting here. I agree. Her exiting that bubble or hexagon or whatever it is, kind of to me highlights that she's not 100% the one in control of it. We get
Mm,
the confirmation later when she says she doesn't know how all of this started. What's weird to me in general is that like the timeline is pretty much that she stole Vision 9 days ago,
Yes.
and or of the time of where they are, but he sent out Monica to Westview. Like a lot of what this episode does is paint Hayward as kind of a evil party involved in this project, or at least untrustworthy. Because it makes no sense that like how did they lose track of Wanda 100% and not figure out that she's in Westview, or how do you not measure those anomalies or whatever is happening there? Like it's just a
right.
coincidence that happens. So there's something else kind of in the bush. I think a big thing this episode taught us is that Wanda's not always in control.
Yeah.
It's Agnes, the first scene with Agnes going, should I do it from the top, and her just being confused.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh my
there's
god.
also that was really weird. Like I kind of love the fact that they're breaking it more and more, and I feel like we're kind of seeing like each episode just getting more and more broken in that sitcom world.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, or the big takeaway, or the big thing that I took here is that we're seeing like we saw it with the weird ass stork that she couldn't get rid of. We saw it with the twins just suddenly aging themselves up on their own volition, which was extremely random. Agnes going out of her way to say, "Oh, you can't control them," and it's just like doesn't care about it, and Wanda stopping to care about it. Like Vision's the only one kind of realizing, "Hey, what is going on here?" There's a lot like off about this episode, and it feels very deliberate in what it's doing. I'm really curious how we move forward. And I'll be honest, I did not expect that we would get the Quicksilver Evan Peters reveal so early on.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
kind of thought that was like episode 7 or something, but this is a really big surprise that's already in the halfway point.
Yeah, and and Elizabeth Olsen has been teasing the Luke Skywalker level cameo of WandaVision, and many are wondering if that's it, or maybe there's something else down the line. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of theories right now. If you go to Twitter right now, it's swamp with theories, and spoilers after you watch it, of course. But the thing is, based on this episode alone, it tells you so much about the post Endgame world, right? Post
Yeah.
Endgame world, character relationships, that look Monica gave at the mention of Carol Dent
Oh
of
yeah,
Captain
yeah.
Marvel.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty telling, and it's going to be interesting to find out how it will evolve in Captain Marvel 2. Something there's a story there, of course. There's a story there because WandaVision is setting up Phase 4 in all different ways, and WandaVision is not just setting up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's been confirmed that WandaVision will also somehow connect with Spider-Man 3 based on Jack Schaefer's comments in the past interviews. So there's that. I just want to ask you guys, what do you think about this particular scene where Jimmy Woo, Monica Rambeau, and Darcy Lewis are talking about the final battle of Avengers Endgame like they were there from their standpoint?
Yeah.
Does it make sense to you? Because it's like they have a play-by-play highlight of everything that transpired in the Avengers compound battle. Joe?
I mean, we have to keep in mind these guys are FBI, sword, scientists. I think what they're kind of hinting at is that a lot of the events of that battle became public knowledge. There's probably someone who leaked the information, who got the information out there, and it makes sense in a way. Like we're talking about a world where Tony Stark created an entire satellite filled with deadly drones.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of assumed that Sword had their eyes on what was happening, or Shield, or whatever kind of organization is still around. That they were kind of like, okay, what the hell is happening here? And I think Sword is kind of the go-to to discuss that. And FBI got the information as well. Darcy's the only one, but she doesn't really jump into that discussion. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of feels like it is more of a Federal Bureau kind of information point. So I think the public know, like we also, like, how did the public know Black Widow died? Tony Stark, that was a public thing. But like Black Widow, we never get a mention. But then in that they're making a memorial. They're also talking about Vision's death. So I think we're underestimating how much information goes around in this world because it's never really just touched upon. It's just assumed that people talk, information gets leaked. There's an entire documentary in Far From Home on the snap. So I think that people know more than they probably should, but they just also have technology far beyond what we have. Like the drone they used that was from the 80s, I doubt we would have in the 80s.
And guys, Jimmy Woo just casually mentioned the Mind Stone.
Yeah.
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 that's that's something like before Infinity War, it's more of a myth, and now after Endgame, it's like whoa, it's like a normal thing. Charles, how about you? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's interesting to think about what exactly happened right after the battle at the Avengers compound. I like to think that there was at least a debriefing. Like I
No.
can't imagine the fucking amount of paperwork you have to fucking maybe file with the government. Just let them know, like, holy shit, here's what happened in the 5 years. Here's how we brought everyone back. And like, imagine the logistical nightmare of I guess educating people what happened in the past 5 years. Here's what you missed. Here's how we won. Here's
Mhm.
who died. Here's how they died. Here are the casualties. Here are the survivors. Like imagine just like the amount of that. So I guess it kind of makes sense that these government organizations are aware of what happened because they've been debriefed of what happened, of how people got saved and how people returned and how this power worked. Like I'm also very curious because Joe earlier was talking about Hayward in being sort of a very very suspicious person. It kind of makes sense when you think about it because we see Wanda steal the body from Sword.
Yes.
She sees Vision's corpse totally dissected.
Hmm.
Like early this morning, I was talking to Charles Murphy. I mentioned to him, "Hey, I just thought about this now. How the fuck did Sword open a vibranium robot? Do they
Yeah.
even have the tools
Mm.
to split open a vibranium robot? And why are they doing that? You think that are they studying it? Do they want to turn Vision into a weapon. That's why Wanda stole it. It definitely brings up some very interesting prospects about Sword, and like what Aaron said, the post Endgame world. Like, is Sword making a weapon out of Vision to prepare for, what if there's another big threat out there? Because when Monica enters Sword in the last episode, she mentioned something about sentient weapons creation something.
Yeah.
Could that be
Yeah.
related to what they're doing with Vision? Because then again, Monica didn't seem to know that Wanda broke into Sword. You think that you're the daughter of the founder of Sword. You're technically supposed to be the head of Sword right now if you didn't get snapped. You think that when you when you come back from the blip, the first thing they would tell you, okay, here's what you missed. Here's what happened last week. We fucked up. An Avenger broke into a government facility to
Hmm.
steal probably one of the most powerful weapons on Earth. You think that that would be priority number one for Sword and for the government, but it's kind of weird. Like what Joe said, Monica just gets sent to a field trip in Westview in Jersey, and Tyler Hayward doesn't mention anything about it. So I don't know if that's bad writing or maybe they're hiding something with that. But I
Hmm.
thought that was super peculiar that Wanda missing didn't seem like a priority at first. It's like, oh, she's this thing that Monica found out. Oh, that's where Wanda is. Okay, let's go there. It kind of seems like it's weird. It's a weird setup to this premise that I hope we get answers to.
Yeah,
Mm.
and we're definitely getting answers because at at that point, episode 5 is more like the penultimate episode right now before the season finale.
Yeah, it
But
does. Yeah.
the good news is it's the midpoint. Like there are 4 episodes left, and when you backtrack previous comments from Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Jack Schaefer, they're teasing the last 3 episodes is the big MCU movie. Like they actually said that in previous
Mm.
interviews, and that's insane because episode 5 is already like an MCU movie. What else could be in store in those 3 episodes? That makes you think.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Charles. Hayward is a dick. So that as Darcy pointed it out, but he there are nefarious plans here. There are deeper plans here that's about to be unraveled, and in that confrontation between Wanda and the director of Sword, Wanda knows him. She addresses him as director. So maybe they met before.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And
They
she
met
puts the
before.
guns only on him, not
Yeah,
on Monica.
yeah. And
Ooh.
there's conflict there. There's conflict there, and you can feel it in that scene. That scene is intense and terrifying, but the panic and the anxiety of Hayward is you can just feel it. And and now let's now move on to that, of course, sword and stuff like that. It's going to be slowly unraveled. The thing about the marketing for Marvel Studios right now, it's slowly becoming like the Mandalorian, guys, because they released a mid-season trailer last week, and I think that's for episode 5 and 6 because most of it are from episode 5, and maybe some of it are now for episode 6. Maybe they will not release more scenes. Maybe I don't know because the 7, 8, 9 are the most probable spoilery episodes because it could very well lay the groundwork for the next projects. Let's now move
Mm.
on to the ending because we're gonna talk about this a lot, of course, because you've mentioned it a lot earlier. Someone shows up at the door, and it's Pietro, but not from the MCU, from the X-Men universe.
Bam, bam, bam.
Dun dun dun.
I just want to know. I just want to find out. Of course, Charles knows this already because Evan Pierce. That's her scoop. But what was your initial reaction when that was confirmed on screen, Charles?
It was pretty cool because obviously that stuff leaked last week, so it's like, oh shit, right. Me and Charles Murphy were like, yeah, we got it right. But
Mm-hmm.
like the thing that I guess surprised me more than anything
Mm-hmm.
was the accent.
Yeah.
Like I was
The New
I
York.
was I was kind of curious. Like, okay, that would be the determining factor if this is truly Pietro from Fox from that universe. But you know, he has a fucking thick New York accent, which is like super weird. Because as far as I can remember, I don't think Evan Peters from the X Men movies, like I don't think Pietro had a New York
No,
accent. So
No.
he did.
so it is kind of weird that he has an accent here. I've seen some people say, you know, because the twins are Tommy and Billy are like they seem to have their own sort of reality warping powers if that's truly them. I've seen some people say, what if that's them sort of willing their uncle to life, and that's what they think their uncle sounds like. He sounds like a New Yorker and whatnot. But then again, how do they know what the fucking New Yorker sounds like in the first place? What's their reference point? So
Yeah.
it is super odd that you know he has an accent. And what? And I think you know I mentioned earlier Wanda has an accent when she goes out of the hex. I think accents play into play a big part in who these people really are or who's pulling their strings. And I definitely think that accent is a giveaway on what exactly is happening. Like I don't think this is Quicksilver, and even Darcy, you know,
Hmm.
she acknowledges it. Oh shit, they recast him, so they know that this is not what Pietro really looks like.
Uh,
So there's definitely something here, but I'm curious how they're gonna reveal it because I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, the approach and the strategy of how they will reveal it in the narrative is going to be crazy in the next few weeks. Joe, how about you?
um, huge surprise. I mean, the rumor is that the fact that they did get Evan Peters to, for now play Quicksilver is such a meta joke. And there's a lot of like meta commentary throughout this show on how we consume shows and how we, with Darcy kind of reacting the way we would also be like, holy shit, they just recast Pietro. But the thing is, we are the ones who know that he's Quicksilver in the X-Men universe.
Hmm.
Now, the thing is, to me, what makes it interesting is that, first of all, in the X-Men universe, his name is Peter and not Pietro.
Yeah.
So,
Ooh, really?
Yes,
yeah, so
that's true.
that, because they took Pietro in the MCU, they couldn't use it in the X-Men. That's why he became Peter. And they hinted at Wanda existing in the X-Men universe as well with his little sister and I think older sister or something. Because if we look at X-Men history, where's Polaris? There is technically a sibling missing in this family, but those two, the twins, were always like the most iconic. And the thing that also is interesting is that the whole fact, like the accent that he has, is actually an old sitcom trope. One of
Yeah.
the oldest sitcom tropes, especially in the 80s and 90s or early 90s, was the cousin or uncle or family member who shows up out of nowhere for one episode with a heavy accent that no one knows exactly where he came from, but he just shows up once and disappears again. Or they try to make him a mainstay. It's kind of like when the Simpsons did the commentary with Poochie, where the show's like, oh, the show's stale, let's add a new character, and it was like this rad dog that Homer used to voice, and that's kind of where they're playing with this. I also don't think it's actually Quicksilver.
Hmm.
It's probably someone. So I had the theory that I went in on this with the missing person theory, and I kind of think that he is that missing person.
Hmm.
I
Ooh,
would love it if if Evan Peters is freaking Wonder Man, who's just like an over the top actor
wow.
who's hiding from his brother, and he was just like giving the lifetime role he ever could have by becoming Wanda's brother, because it would be so fucking weird. And it would fit why he's like kind of overacting in a way. Wanda's reaction is the most interesting aspect of that reveal to me, though, because she looks at him and calls him Pietro. Even if he has white hair like her brother did, by the face, no one would go, "That's my brother." We all know how the original Aaron Taylor Johnson looks like, and so her to say that is either they're playing on the fact that, like Charles said, is that maybe the twins created him because she said he's far away and not dead, even though it was confirmed that he's dead, in episode 3. I think it would be even more tragic if we go away from my Wonder Man theory that she created this new version or this new image of Quicksilver out of her grief, but it's been so long she can't remember his face,
Oh man.
which I think would be an interesting tragedy to highlight how trying to cling to that time is not as easy, especially when time goes by, because it's been quite a few years since he passed away.
8 years.
It can happen. And we never see a picture of him. We never see any images of their family. Like, this is the first time we get the parents' name drop. So I would be surprised that she just forgot his face, and the only thing she remembered was like the white hair he always had and stuff like that.
And she's been through a lot in the MCU. I mean, after Avengers Age of Ultron, there's a lot of missions, there's a lot of trauma. Oh, maybe that impacted her in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So both of you are what I'm understanding now. Both of you are trying to tell me that it's not Quicksilver.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think a lot of people are hyping up the Pietro
Multiverse.
stuff because it's understandably exciting because holy shit, it's a Fox actor playing the character he played in the Fox movies, but and I think people's expectations are gonna have to be, I guess, tempered with because
Yeah.
like what if it's not Quicksilver and then you fucking built up in your head, oh, he's Mephisto, and then he's not Mephisto, then you're like, man, this show fucking sucks because you built it up in your head. So I always tell people it's gonna be a lot simpler than we think. It's
Yeah.
him being Quicksilver complicates things
Mhm.
because the fact that Darcy acknowledges that he's not Pietro sort of just explains how this thing doesn't fit in their universe. So it makes sense to sort of lower your expectations a little bit and try to stop overhyping him as the like holy shit. Is Evan Peters gonna is Patrick Stewart gonna fucking show up here next? It's like no, he's not gonna fucking
Yeah.
show up.
No, it's not.
So people have to calm down a little bit.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
hype train on Twitter after that episode was insane. Joe Charles, you see that? Oh my god, you saw
Yeah,
that?
it's crazy. Yeah.
and and if that's really true, if he's not Quicksilver, man, you don't want to go on Twitter to find out the reaction because there's going to be some sort of disappointment. But there's a big but. It's episode 5. They have 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
And we all know
Yeah.
Marvel Studios. They're good at explaining these things to people in a simple manner. Like we've seen it in Infinity Saga. And now, given the sitcom format and the real world implications of WandaVision, this is a real challenge for Marvel Studios to convince, to explain that, okay, fan, sit down. We're going to tell you that this is not Quicksilver, but we're going to tell you in a detailed way. Because when after this explanation, you will all say, oh, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And we trust Marvel Studios. We trust Kevin Feige and all his vision, and we track Jack Schaefer because, oh my God, WandaVision is great. And it's going to be interesting to find out how they resolve this, how they, tie it all together in the next few weeks. Because at this point, guys, in the coming weeks, it's going to be WandaVision is already a must see even after episode 4. Episode 5 is just the beginning. Episode 6,
Uh,
7, 8, and 9. It's going to be a lot. Like, you see the trend here, guys, in the past episodes. The runtime is now accelerating. Like it's being added up. The episode 5 is the longest one. You can expect episode 6 is longer than episode 5. So there's that. And the high probability of the last 3 episodes of being the MCU big action packed thing that everyone's talking, that the cast and crew are talking about. I think it's gonna went ahead 45 minutes, maybe 1 hour. It's going to be insane. The ranking, I mean the episode score now, the final leg of this of this MCUExchange pod, from 1 to 10. WandaVision episode 5. What are your ratings? Me first. My rating is, my God, this is a 10 because of the unexpected plot lines, the unexpected reveals, the surprise of Wanda exiting the hex. That I didn't expect that. That right there is the win already. And Evan Peters' appearance as Quicksilver, it's so jam packed. It's like an MCU movie. We're getting an MCU movie every week, and that's wow. We're finally here, guys. Phase 4, Disney Plus. Yay! 10 over 10 for me. Charles, you first. Episode.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's also 9 out of 10. I'm curious. Look, it
Yeah.
might be a 10 out of 10 once we see the entire show and we get a clear idea on where the ceiling is exactly
Mhm.
for where the show can go. But right now it's like a 9 out of 10.
Joe.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 here too.
Got
I think it's a fantastic episode. I think we're even just getting to the good parts even more, and I think a lot of people are seeing why those early episodes exist, and it's just continuing that momentum that really shows how Marvel Studios has grown and embraced the TV or weekly format.
How about you guys over at followers or Twitter? What are your thoughts about this episode? What is your ranking? What is your episode score? Please do let us know on twitter.com/MCUExchange. And you can also let us know personally on our Twitter account. My Twitter account is twitter.com/AaronChino. That's AaronChino. You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at CFS Villanueva.
You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
You'll find me as @thatabel, ThatAberl.
Awesome. And that about wraps it up for another episode of the MC Exchange podcast. It's episode 46. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and everyone keep safe. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.
Till next time.
Right.
And yay!
That was good.
That was good. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Great.